Lepore, we have to talk about NHL officiating because
Sure.
there was a big, big explosive, if you want to call it explosive on Twitter, I guess, situation when Jacob Chikrin in overtime against Austin Matthews held his stick and kind of dragged him down, and then Chikrin comes in and buries the game-winning goal. And Leaf fans are up in arms. Matthews is yelling at the refs. It's very rare to see Matthews become that heated, especially at the referees. And it was crazy to see. It was clearly a penalty. And you think back to Ovechkin hooking Zach Hyman when Zach Hyman had an empty net, Oilers, Capitals, and that wasn't called. And then TJ Oshie ends up tying the game late. The Oilers end up winning that game in overtime. But, then you even look at that Senators Vegas Golden Knights game where Thomas Chabot gets called for a trip, leading to Jack Eichel scoring a power play goal to win the game with like 6 seconds left on the clock. So, I'm sure people can go through a ton of different situations this year where similar things have happened, but these things have all happened recently within the last week to 2 weeks. So, Lepore, what the hell, man? Like, what can the NHL do here to fix this? Especially, looking at that Matthews call, like it's a clear penalty that leads to an overtime win for the opponent. So, what can the NHL do to address this?
See, we've said a million times on the show that we don't like talking about refs. So my path to it is more an NHL thing. People are always quick to point and yell at officials when mistakes are made, whether it's a call or a non-call. I don't think I'm being illogical when I say that referees aren't doing a bad job on purpose. When they make a mistake, it's because they didn't have a clear view or they missaw something. In those 3 examples you gave, I'm sure if you showed the referees who made or did not make those calls slow motion replays of what happened, they would have made the different call. The holding on Matthews, had the referee been close to it, seen the hold, he would have put his arm up. Chabot, the player did not trip over his stick. The player tripped on his own. From the referee's viewpoint, I'm sure he saw a foot close to a stick and the player fall. In the case of the Hyman Ovechkin one, more of the same. I'm sure he just saw 2 guys battling for the puck. So to me, the issue is not necessarily, oh, the referees suck. It's like, guys, no, these are the best referees in the world. I just don't see how the NHL cannot want to make changes with regard to what is available to the teams concerning challenges and replays for the officials. What I don't understand in sports altogether is whenever we have these discussions, there are people who argue against more replay and more access for the officials. Why don't you want to get it right? Why? I remember, I'm a big soccer fan, and I remember when VAR came in for offside, people flipping out, going nuts. So you'd rather see, it takes integrity away from the game. It takes power away from the refs that you do this now on these calls that are a few inches. So you'd rather have the World Cup winning goal be actually offside than just have a system that works, but you had to wait 30 seconds for someone to watch a replay. So that's where I lie with it. The NHL has to make some changes with regard to the rules and how teams can challenge or how certain plays are reviewed. The way I see it is do it this way. Do it like soccer and VAR, where every goal scored is reviewable. It will be automatically reviewed, like the NFL. Same thing. Every scoring play gets the review. So in the case of the Chikrin goal, they would look at it and be like, no, Chikrin held up Matthews. It doesn't count. So in the case of non-calls, that saves the day. In the case of, say, what happened to Chabot, have a coach's challenge. Again, what's wrong with the situation where Chabot can run over to DJ Smith and say, no, I wasn't close to him, throw the flag to challenge it. It gets challenged. The referee goes to the monitor, 5-second review. No trip. move on. And if the team's wrong, do the whole thing. They get a penalty for delay of game or something. What would the argument be against that? The Oilers won. Thank God they won. Thank God they won, because that one was even worse than the hold on Matthews. That one was absolutely crazy. That kind of hook was something they put in the Hockey Canada video for referees, saying this is the definition of hooking in the sport of hockey. Absolutely crazy. But to me, we have the technology. We didn't have it before. We have the access. We can do things quickly. It makes the game look bad. Horrible. These things make the game look horrible. We're trying to attract fans. Try to attract a fan when you show them shit like that. Get it right. I don't understand. Why don't they want to just have a system that gets it right? And you're not taking anything away from the referees. We're just acknowledging, yeah, it's a hard job. The game's gotten way faster. And I'll put it this way. Make it like soccer, where for a play to be changed, it had the terminology they use is clear and obvious error. So let's say the Shabbat one, if that was to be reviewed, they look, a penalty being called was a clear and obvious error. His foot wasn't near his stick. Reverse it. If it's one of those ones where it's close, his stick was there, but actually how much influence did it have on the player going down? No, it's a trip. But when it's drastic, like those three examples, make it so people can do something about it, man, because it's gross. And like I'm saying, the Don Cherry thing, if we get that playoff in overtime or something like that, a team gets eliminated, it's horrible. It's bad for the sport. And like I said, we're trying to attract fans. We're trying to keep fans. Why not just get it right?
And that's it right there. For the love of God, just get it right. And I look at the NFL, right, especially with all the pass interference and things like that. And I know they changed the rule where now they've gone back to not reviewing pass interference.
Yeah.
And that's just been a disaster on its own. And we even saw in the Super Bowl when T. Higgins had that long touchdown and he essentially
the face mask,
face mask on Jalen Ramsey. Right. And, it's stuff like that. Like, just get it right. And it's like, you go back to the examples that I talked about in the NHL. You have a star player, a guy who is probably going to win the Hart Trophy this year in Austin Matthews, who's in an overtime game, and he's just blatantly getting held by Jacob Chikrin. And again, things happen really fast. The game of hockey is a lot faster now than it was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. But you're telling me that we can't take a minute to 2 minutes, as annoying as it might be sometimes, to just review these things, especially on scoring plays, especially on overtime scoring plays. The Matthews, the infraction on Matthews, Alexander Ovechkin blatantly hooking Zach Hyman, like just a blatant hook on Zach Hyman. Like, how does that not get called? These are things that should easily be reviewable and be able to be changed, especially when it's a scoring play, especially when it's a big moment in the game. The last thing you would want is being in the Stanley Cup final and, you're in overtime, whether it's an elimination game, whether it's game 1 or game 2 of the cup final, and there's just a blatant missed call where, God forbid, a star player, name the star player, whoever's playing in the cup final this year, just gets hauled down in overtime, no call. The other team walks in and scores. You're telling me the NHL can't take 2 minutes to review something like that to get it right?
Yeah.
It's insane. And I know all of these examples have all happened very recently and it has people very heated, but I think this is probably the kick of the ass that the NHL needs to go into those board of governors meetings and whatever they do with the competition committee in the off season and figure out a way to address this and just to make it right.
Yeah. The thing is, too, the way I see it, and I'll get your opinion, Bruno, and comment down below what you guys think. I think it'd be really easy with hockey because you gave the NFL examples, things like pass interference and, the classic one, what is a catch? There is gray there because you have hand fighting. It's not like there's no body contact allowed. And then with the catch, we can argue all day long on what is and what is not. But in hockey, most cases have to do with a stick. So in Matthew's case, Chikrin held his stick I'll use the words I used before, clear and obvious. He held his stick. And then on the opposite side of a call that shouldn't have been a call, the Shabbat one, it's a stick knocking feet out. That is the rule of tripping. You look at it, that didn't happen. It's an easy call. And even again, like I touched on, like for the good of the game, here you have this game, the home team down 4-1. They come roaring back, 2 goals in 10 seconds. A goalie gets put in. It's his first NHL game. He's playing great. The crowd's getting behind him. 3-on-3 overtime which is an amazing thing the NHL did. Back and forth action. And that's how the game was won. That's it. We were robbed of a great result. Heck, if the Leafs lose, the Leafs lose. Got nothing to do with that. But let it play out. Again, what a story that game would have been. Had the Leafs won and this goalie gets his first win that way, or in a shootout makes 3 saves, or and again, if Arizona was able to score a legitimate goal and was able to like overcome having a 3-goal lead blow up in their face. To me, that's just what's so brutal about it. And again, being a Leaf fan, watching it live, sitting on the couch, wife next to me, you clearly see Matthews being held up. And then the play continues, and I hear him screaming, "That's a penalty! That's a penalty! That's a penalty!" As Arizona's entering the zone, out loud, Bruno. I'm like, well, they're gonna score now. They have hockey gods. They have to score now. Bang bang one-timer goal because of the Leafs. Just horrible. Welcome to the party.
It's brutal. The NHL needs to address this in the offseason, and knowing the NHL, they probably won't address it because that's what happens a lot of the times with this league where they're just not ahead of the curve when you compare the NHL to whether it's the NFL, the NBA, whoever, right? They always seem to be a step behind the curve, even soccer for that matter with VAR. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully nothing egregious like this happens in the playoffs that leads to a result that should not have happened. But we'll see because it's the NHL and come playoff time, Lepore, basically anything is possible. You can cross-check dudes in the head, in the neck. You can 2-hand guys in the leg right in front of the referee, and the refs just don't care because it's playoff hockey, right? That's how it's kind of always been. So we'll see what happens down the home stretch of the season and then leading into the playoffs. But I have a feeling that nothing is going to change, at least right now.